made a problem finishing. And Bikurim is 13 blot. So I think that we'll finish the entire Seder on Tuesday, a week from Tuesday. If all goes well. Okay? Sure, why not? Any chametz. Okay, we are in the third line on Yudzayin now. Rabbi Zira boy come Rabbi Avo. Now, Rabbi Zira, this is a very interesting thing which we're going to learn etymologically. Of course, we had array before, but last night it said every place where it says lo sochlu yeochlu, it's talking about it implies also a prohibition on benefits, right? Isra no. So that was one thing, but then the question was then the last immediately beforehand, right on top of Yud Zayin, it sounds like it's not always the case. Well, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it doesn't apply to Isra no. And therefore the Gemara goes on and asks, when does and when does not? Sometimes it doesn't apply to Isra no. Here you say this way, sometimes it doesn't apply to Isra no. Armalese said, Rabbi Loaz says, wherever it says, Lo yochlu, Lo sochlu, Lo yochlu, Lo yochal, Lo yochel, any of these things implies an Isra no. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, it doesn't. What does Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Avo B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan both said? Kol makom shneimar lo sochlu. Wherever it says lo sochlu, now that's with the cholam. It's lo sochlu. Whenever there's a cholam, lo sochal, right, or lo sochlu, or even lo sochelu. But there's a cholam at the beginning of the word, an o sound, so then it doesn't imply an isur hana. It doesn't imply that it's prohibited to derive benefit from. Ein ha'toifes isur hanoya. It's not doesn't imply an isur noya ki isur achila, as well as an isur achila. In other words, I guess the way to explain that is that it's a direct command. Don't eat it. Whenever there's a cholam, whenever there's an o at the beginning, it's don't eat it. However, and here they stick in a very important thing here, the meforshim, which is not in the Gemara itself. Lo seachel or lo yeachel, when it's with a tzerei, then atoifes isra noik isra achila. Then there is isra no like isra achila. In other words, when it says lo seachel, it should not be eaten, right? What do we have? What? It's mosquito? So they said they would be early this year. Wherever it says it should not be eaten, right, with a seir at the beginning. Lo seachel, that's passive, right? So it's not a direct command. It should not be eaten. So that implies an isra hana. Okay? When it's a cholam, don't eat it. So it's just isra achila, prohibition not to derive benefit. When it should not be eaten, then that implies also a prohibition on binyan. It does make sense, yeah. Binyan of. Is it true? Oh, according to Rabbi Yochanan goes. We're going to go through a whole bunch of them now. Being of Shebukulam, the primary case, the archetype for all of them is V'chol Chatos Asher Yuva Midama El Moed. Any Chatos whose blood is brought into the inner sanctum, L'chaper B'Kodesh Ruton in the Kodesh, Lo Seachel, it should not be should be eaten. Bo'esh Tisaref, it should be burnt in a fire. So this is talking about a case where it's just a second. This is with it says lo seachel. So since it says lo seachel, so therefore with the tzera, that is why bo'esh tisaref. So since it says lo seachel, that's why bo'esh tisaref, that's why it's also b'no. Tani chizka misayil Rabbi Yochanan. We have a price which brings down to support Rabbi Yochanan. What does the price say? Since it says kol chelev shor v'kesaves lo so with a cholam lo so chelu, do not eat Why does it say that the chaylev and nevela chaylev trefa you can use for any malacha? Now, if lo so chaylev with a cholam would imply, Mr. Zucker, we just learned something, which is that any time it says in the Torah lo say achel, you can sit down. Anytime it says lo say achel, anytime it says do it's with a tseirei. The two dots under the suf, seyachel or teachel or teachlu or yeachel. So in that case, you're not allowed to derive benefit from it either, because the indication is that it's an indirect command. So it should not be eaten, which means you should not derive benefit from it. When anybody says directly with a cholam, which is an o sound, lo so chal, lo so chelu. Or anything like that, lo yochal. So then that means you can't eat it, but you can derive benefit from it. Okay, so that's what we're picking up on now. Okay, so we're up to Tani Chizkiah on Zayin and Aleph. We'll start from there a little bit, Zayin and Aleph, a little lines further, a couple lines further up. Okay, Tani Chizkiah, Messiah Rabbi Yechon. Do you have it?
Tani Chizkiah.
Okay. Tani Chizkiah Messiah Rabbi Yechon. So Chizkiah brings a proof to Rabbi Yechon, who said this dichotomy between the O and the A sound. B'mashish Namar, problem is if you're a Litvak, then everything is an A. So you can't tell the difference, okay? B'mashish Namar Ko Chelu V'Shar V'Keser Lo So Chelu, which is with the Cholam. Later Davar Namar V'Chelu Nevelu Chev Trefli Yasel Chom Lacha. Why then is supposed to say that the fats of we're talking about the fats of an ox or of a sheep or of a goat? Why does it then have to say that that you're allowed to use the fats of a goat or sheep or ox which dies, use as an available treifa, that it can be used for any malacha? It's of course you can use it for any malacha. What would be my thought that you can't use it for any malacha? So bali adiacha, the rest of the post it says you can use it for any work, comes to teach us afilu l'melechas hagavah. You can even use it to smear on the hides of korbanos. Right? It's permissible even to use in the context of gavah means on high, the context of korbanos. So now what's the proof here for Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan drew the dichotomy between where you use the A or the O. Here it's using the O. And that's why the Brisa says it's obvious that it's mutter and anoah. I don't need a pasuk to allow an anoah because it's an O and not an A. So therefore, it must be that which permits you to use it for work is being used for some other purpose. What other purposes are used for? To teach you allowed to smear it on the korbanos as well. Another example. Mimash Mishnema Rakadam Lo Sochelu says the blood you should not eat with a cholam lo sochelu lays a dover nemar or tishchanukamayim. Why does it say they could spill it on the ground like water? It's obvious. You can use it for anything you want. Ma mayim machshirim, so it teaches us just like water makes something suitable to be rendered tamei. Afadam machshir, so to blood makes something suitable to become tamei. So again, we don't need it to permit us to derive benefit from the blood because it's lo sochelu with a cholam, an O, right? So it's obviously going to derive benefit. So what do we use it to teach us? Something else, that blood has the status of a beverage and it makes something suitable to be mekabel tuma. Another drasha. Mimash b'shenamar, since it says lo sochlu, again with a cholam, kol nevela, any nevela, lays a davar namar. Why? Therefore does it say la ger sheb'sharach titnen avachala? Why does it say to the ger, who the convert who lives in your gates, you should give it and he can eat it? Bolo diacha, it comes to teach you sheger toshav, that a ger tzedek is a full ger who joins Judaism altogether. Ger toshav is literally a citizen ger who comes and keeps the 7 Noahide laws and lives in the land of Israel. So once it's telling us, the pasuk is telling us that we're supposed that this ger is allowed to eat nevelos. He can go to McDonald's even if he lives in Eretz Yisrael. So the thing is like this. Obviously, blood is mutter b'anoah, and obviously because it says lo sochelu with an O. where it have said lo se'achelu with a tzere, it would have been also ano as well. Another one, Mimash Mishneh Mar Sidza tells us V'asa basode treifa lo sochelu, says flesh in the field, treifa you should not eat. Later, why does it continue to go out to say makel tashlichun also that you have to throw to the dog? Osata mashich kelev, you throw this to the dog. Ve'iyata mashich chulish nishtu bazar. It teaches us that you don't throw chulish nishtu bazar. No, it's stuff which is shechted in the azar, even though it was shechted improperly in the Beis HaMikdash, because it was chulin. Nonetheless, you don't throw that to a dog. Masnisam, okay, masnisam Messiah.
Where do you learn that from?
From here. The basar basada treifa. Only stuff became treifa out in the field, not stuff which became treifa when shechted in Nazara. It's not there to give that to a dog. So again, we didn't have to learn it, that it's mutter b'ano because it says lo sochelu. It doesn't say with a kotzeri, it says it with a chola. Masisa b'sayadei, masisa b'sayadei. Now we have a brisa which I'm immediately going to learn, with the part of which is a proof to Rabbi Yochanan, part of it's a proof to Rabbi Eliezer. Okay? The beginning is put to Rabbi Eliezer that regardless of whether it's cholam or tzera, it always indicates a prohibition on hanoah, and the end of the brisa is a proof to Rabbi Yochanan, depends whether it's written with the cholam or tzera. Masnisa Messiah is a typo here. Masnisa Messiah Rabbi Eliezer. There's one, but the beginning of the brisa is right Rabbi Eliezer, who, because it says lo ye'achel chametz, says chametz should not be eaten. Latzus is a machil koichel. You learn that this teaches us that a person who feeds somebody else chametz is as severe as somebody who eats chametz on Pesach. Do I say that the pasuk of lo yechel chametz, that chametz should not be eaten, comes for this? Or may it comes to forbid benefit? Lo sochal olav chametz. When it says lo sochal of chametz, now this lo sochal of chametz is written by the Koren Pez. It says don't eat on it chametz with a chola. Nonetheless, the Brisa says that teaches us that chametz is also to derive benefit. That's clear. Rabbi Eliezer does not distinguish between the use of the cholam or the use of a tzere. Whether it's an O or an A, he forbids it the same way. So this Brisa is clearly learning at this juncture, like Rabbi Eliezer, no distinction. It says that for the fact that lo sochal of chametz, no inalati chametz, and not only that you not eat it, then it's also ba'noah. So so why did it go on to say chametz should not be eaten? To teach us that a person who feeds somebody else chametz is just as if he eats chametz. Divrei Rabbi Yosha. That's Rabbi Yosha's opinion, and that always says like Rabbi Eliezer.
Maybe it's a Gezerah Shalom, having learned chametz, that just like it's Asher Ben say Ochel, the Asher Ben it says
No. You can't learn Gezerah Shava like that because it's not the same word.
No, but chametz is the same.
I don't need Gezerah Shava for that. I don't need Gezerah Shava for that because they're both chametz. It's Gezerah Shava is not saying when they're not both chametz. So I learn the same word, but here it's the same concept. But I don't use Gezerah Shava. I say they're all to. Of course, you don't even need a hekesh. It's all a question of how we use all these multiple sugim which all apply to chametz. They're automatically linked. The question is how we use them. So therefore, we say one we learn the Isra no out of the Isra Achila plus the Isra. On the other one, we used to say that you're not even allowed to feed anybody else chametz because that's as superfluous pasuk tells the same thing we already know. So must be kind to tell us something else. Okay. Rabbi Yitzchak Omer ein tzarich. Rabbi Yitzchak says you don't have to learn it this way. Ma im shrotzim kalim. You don't need any psukim for this. Shrotzim kalim. If you have creepy crawly things, which are not as severe as chametz, right? Because it's only a prohibition of allowed to eat them, not a koris to eat them, right? Also, if you give somebody to eat creepy crawly things, you're chayev as if you eat them. Chametz chamor. Chametz is more severe for which you get koris.
Eino din shenasa bosam achel koichel. So how kavachom you make the person who gave teeth as if he ate himself? Now, if that's the case, there's just a minute. First of all, I tell you, the one Yavama stuff Kufi brings out how we know we're not allowed to give shvatim to anybody else to eat. Creepy crawling. So it's partial. It says lo sochlum, and we dash in that lo tachilum. Do not feed the shvatim, the creepy crawly things, to anybody else. So since we know over there already, so we don't need a pasuk over here. So if that's the case, so why does it have to tell me that you're not supposed to eat chametz? That pasuk must be come to aser barano. Now, why that pasuk? Why lo yeachel, not lo sochal? But says Yerushalmi, begin to receive lo yeachel. I picked the pasuk that says lo yeachel because it's written with seirei with an A. Hami lo sochal, the pasuk says lo sochal with a cholam leishma minoklum. You can't learn anything from that pasuk. But the fact that we choose to learn the prohibition on benefit from lo yeachel, not from lo sochal, it indicates to us that this end, Rabbi Yitzchak calls of Rabbi Yochanan, that we go after the dichotomy between a cholam and a tzeri. For the Messiah, Rabbi Yochanan says the word. This is in fact a proof for Rabbi Yochanan. Pshita. Okay, now that's the end of that sugya. Now we go to another sugya. Pshita sheina karka nesar. If I bow down to the ground and worship it, the ground does not become osir. Ground cannot become osir in avodah zarah unless I change it. What I do, tzar tzura karka. If I make a furrow in the ground, nesar, the ground becomes osir bano. Where I made that furrow, if I worship the furrow and I say, "Oh, great furrow," etc., 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 and I start composing praises to the furrow, and I worship the furrow now becomes osir bano. Comes osir. Because there's the Gemara Avodah Zarah calls it tfisas yad adam. A man has had control over it. Since a man has had control over it, so therefore now it becomes also by Noah.
What do you say about worshiping a mountain?
It's not also by Noah, but if you do something to the mountain, you can make the mountain smaller. That's what it's saying over here. Now, what if an animal also, if you worship an animal, does it become also by Noah? It becomes also the sacrifice as a korban, but it doesn't become also by Noah. What if what if you paint it? You paint an animal. Is it like making a furrow in the ground and now you can worship it and make it osir or not? Just like when you made a furrow in the ground, you change the ground. Now if you worship it, the ground becomes in that location. Prohibited, now that's where I benefit from it. So too maybe if you color an animal, you dye an animal, so now you're not allowed to derive any benefit from it. Okay? So it says the Gemara, where you just bow down to it, it's not osir. But now you did color it, does it become osir or not? We don't know. Gemara doesn't resolve this question. Now Gemara brings us back to Orlah. What are we driving at? This is what we're driving at the whole time. Muchin, it should be. Pieces of material that you stuff into your pillow. Shetzavo, which you colored with Orlah color. Dye of Orlah. Is it osir bano or not? Tricha. This is a question with like teiku. We don't know the answer. Well, why should it not be osir bano? Because the color is not insignificant. You're stuffing your pillow with it anyway. Nobody's going to look at the little pieces of garments, right? Little pieces of fabric. So therefore, maybe I should say it remains mutar bano because where is it also bano where I get benefit from the color? Then I'm nana from the color, but here's no benefit from the color. I'm not being nana from it, right? Because it's stuffed into a pillow. So therefore, is it considered to be nonetheless us or not? We don't know the answer. Now, a similar question. Beged gadol, you have a large garment. Shetzavam nasuchodcho, which you colored with the intent of cutting it into little strips in order to put inside your pillow. Mat avile, how do you regard it? Kumuzgar or kamuchlot? Like a garment which has sarat, which has been shut away, like one which has been formally declared tameh. Muskar means it's shut away to see if the stain grows. Mucha means it's pronounced tummy. Muskar, if you're going to make it like a garment which is just shut away to see if the stain of tsaras grows, mutter. So then it's permissible. Why? Because I say that it's not yet truly osir, and therefore here, if you cut it up, it's mutter. So too there, if you cut it up, it's mutter. If however you regard it as a garment which has tsaras definitively osir, then even if you cut it up, it remains osir. Okay, Gemara doesn't answer the other question either. Now Gemara asks another question. Tzavo v'chazer v'tzavo. You call it, this is amazing Gemara. Is this an amazing one? Not yet, the next one. Sorry. Tzavo v'chazer v'tzavo. You color it, and then you color again. V'yekdiach. But you color it too much, and now it goes bad. Whatever fabric it is. And used oil the whole time. Nemar, nomar. Right, you got it. You got it. Nomar, let's say. Well, you can write Yerushalmi yourself now. If the first coloring was necessary, meaning that the first one made it beautiful, osir, then it became osir. And later on, even if you color it again, you can't get this off, right? Coloring on top, it still remains osir. If the first time you color it, however, it didn't beautify it, even that time, mutter. Okay, then it remains mutter. And this is similar to what we're about to say, which is what you said. It should be to klipe ego shel chulin. First, you color it the first time with the nut shells of chulin, which is okay, obviously. The chazer tzav, and then you color it again. B'klipe ego shel orlah should be. Then you color it with the nut shells of orlah. Ma'adamar neisat tam of gam mutter. He holds neisat tam of gam is mutter. Of hacha mutter, so to it's mutter. Why? Because when you're putting on the oil, it's a second coat, and the second coat is bad for it. So it's neisat tam of gam. It's an amazing comparison, right? But you struck it there on the head.
I see the pattern at the
Yeah, that's right.
The only thing is, it was put in his mind.
It's bad. It's bad for it. No sitam of gam, right?
But the fact that he wanted to color it a second coat meant that it was pagam.
No. We're talking about where he's an aberrant individual.
I'm reading into it.
He's the aberrant of the Yerushalmi, yes. Also, so to some else is tam of gam is also also. So to here it's also. Okay, now we have a more complicated case. Tzavo b'klipe ego shel orlah. Now, this is a very interesting case, but it's a bit complicated. The Yerushalmi doesn't make it clear. I have to throw in a couple of factors here. Let me say it outside, then we'll say it inside. You have, let's say, fighting malaria. You have you colored part of this garment with dye from a nut of orlah. Then you covered, let's say, another 100 parts of the garment with dye from a nut which is not orlah. And then you covered another 100 parts of the garment with dye from a pomegranate. So everything here is red dye. But there's red dye of nuts and red dye of pomegranate. Without the red dye of pomegranate, the red dye from the nut is not bata, right? Because in order to be mavato or orlah, you need 1 in 200. But a pomegranate has a different shade of red than a nut. Does that mitzaref, does that join together with the nut red in order to cancel the orlah nut red? Okay? So again, you had 1 measure nut red of orlah, 100 measures nut red of not orlah, and 100 measures of pomegranate red. They're all mitzaref together to be mavatel the orlah or not. That's what Gemara is asking. Mim sheino mina. Right. So the question is, does it work at all or not? Because mim mina requires 100, right? And it's not really mim sheino mina, which would be batel ro, because you can tell which is which, right?
Yeah.
So the question is whether it's considered to work or not. So the only way it can work, which is why it would work, is because it's all the rabbanans. Because midaraisa, everything is batel, right? Even the orlah, the nut red orlah is batel, and the nut red chulin midaraisa. The question is whether midrabanan were machmir. Okay, you covered it in you painted it in nutshell of orlah. The chazar v'tzava, and then you painted it b'klipe rimon shel chulin. Now here, there's missing a stage here in the Gemara. You part of it you cancel with nut red of chulin. The rest you cancel with pomegranate red of chulin. What do we say about this case? Yeba kada. Let's sort of like the case which we had back in Masechta Trumas, I think it is. Yeah. Igule dvelo gedolim. If you have large pressed date cakes, malinas aktanim, and small pressed date cakes, the large ones help to cancel the small ones. Vaktani malinas akdolim, and the small ones help to cancel the large ones, even though they're not the same shiur. They're different in size. Nonetheless, one helps cancel the other, and when making up the shiur of 100 to 1, right? We need 100 chulin by truma, we need 100 to chulin versus 1 of truma, right? So the date cakes, regardless of the size of whichever one fell in, they all are joined together. So Sotir says the same thing. Now, once we're on the topic, we're going to make a parenthetical remark here. Ravuna said, Klini Masisa, you should know this is the way to interpret the Brisa by the Mishnah. By Trumos, which is Hagdoil Malim Saktani B'Mishkol. Zakula. Bear in mind, since everything's Rabbanan here, we can be Makel. If you're using the big ones to cancel little ones, you don't need 100 big ones corresponding to one little one, right? Because that would be disproportionate, right? You need far more than you actually really need. So rather we go then by weight. As long as they're not big ones to outweigh by 100 to 1, so that's sufficient. Okay, we don't need count, but outweigh. That's a kula in that direction. And the kula in the other direction is the exact opposite. Haktani malim sagdolim b'minyan. If you have one large one, which is the truma one, so you need not 100 to 200 small ones, let's say, if they're each half as small as the big one, but even 100 small ones are sufficient. So that goes by count, right? Whatever's more lenient for us, the weight or the count. Okay? Now, that was all a parenthetical remark. Back to the issue itself. Says more, there's no comparison between our case of the Orlah and the case of the dates over there. Taman min bimino! Because there it's min bimino. Big dates, little dates, dates. But here, min b'sheino mino, here how can you join the pomegranate red with the nut red? It's not the same, so it doesn't join together. Right? Okay, what about the other case? This other case here. Tzava b'klipi ego she'orlah. Yudzayin base. Top line. Savo, you colored it. B'klipi ego she'orlah, with egos, with nuts of orla. Because of it, Savo b'klipi chulin, and then you covered it again. Then you cover the rest with nuts of chulin. I think this one's case is straightforward. Let me just check. Yeah, chulin, but mean acher, but not nuts. Okay. So not the same kind of nut. I apologize. Another kind of nut. In other words, let's say you had filbert color. Then you put on walnut color. Can the walnut color, the filbert was orla and the walnut's not? There's 100 of walnuts. Can the walnuts join to be mevatel the filberts? Okay, bear in mind it's all color derived from the shell, so I'm just making this up, right? Can the walnut color be mevatel the filbert color? Okay? Says Gemara again, tzava klipe ego shel orla. Because of tzava klipe echulin min acher. Then you colored on an additional amount of a different type of nut. The way he learns the case is complicated like before, I have to tell you that. He says, you have one part of orla walnut, you have a whole bunch of walnut color next to it, but not enough. You need the filbert color next to the walnut color to make up the 200. Okay, so you have one orla walnut color, one part, 100 parts walnut chulin color, and 100 parts filbert color. Little different shade than walnuts, right? Slightly different. It's not a completely different min. It's not min b'sheino mino, it's min b'mino, but a different shade, right? So that's the question, what the status of this case is. Okay, so it says the Gemara, Yeba let's say about this kahada, like this case, Rabbi Shua Merteim Shchoros Malos is the Levanos. You can use black dates to cancel white dates, again, figs. Black dates cancel black figs, again, we're dealing with Truma, and where one fell into 100. Use black to cancel white, Levanos Malos is the Shchoros, and white to cancel black. So Sotir can use filberts to cancel walnuts. Says more, no, it's not comparable. Tamar Royal Chotchon. They're cancels because you can cut them all together and create fig mush. And fig mush, the white and black all look the same, right? Here, how can you cut? Even if you do cut the garment in half, first of all, cancel your whole thing because you can't use the garment anymore. So might as well just toss it, right? So I thought you can never mix them together properly. So therefore, here the filberts will not cancel the walnuts. Ma damila. What would be a possible case where it would be similar, where to black and white figs? Gizim gizizos, where you had all sorts of take, cut up wool, which then got dyed. So then it's kind of, I guess it is cut up. It is possible not to tell the difference. But the thing is, when you have a shirt which got color, you're not going to cut it up. But that's what it says here. If they are cut up, then you can't tell the difference anymore between the filbert and walnut color. Then one would be mavato the other. But right now it's a whole garment, and you're not going to cut it up, and then the filbert color is not mavato the walnut color. Okay? Amrei Rabbi Bun. Rabbi Bun says similar thing. Madamilo will be similar to black and white figs. Beggar got a large garment. Where you colored it with the intent to cut it up. Mabdina Durdasi making the fine parts, and in that case, I would say that the everything is batel because it can get mixed together.
Is it batel l'chatchila or only after?
Oh, so it sounds like Rabbi Boon, Rabbi Yisrael Boon sounds like he doesn't even l'chatchila. The previous somewhere held b'diavad if it cut up, but he's not even l'chatchila, right? Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon said, Samonim. You get your Orlah paints, right? Get mixed up in your Dutch boy paints. Okay? So, B'Telim Masai. You need 200 Dutch boy vis-a-vis the Orlah. Okay? What if you have already diluted paint? And it gets mixed in diluted paint. In other words, it's already diluted. It's not pure paint. B'Telim B'Roiv. Then you don't need 200. All you need is majority of Dutch boy. Or a majority of Dutch boy dilution over a majority of Orlah dilution. Why the difference? The benefit from Orlah only requires a majority to cancel it. Orlah itself requires 200. Benefit, indirect benefit, when it's already diluted, what does it require? Only a majority. Simple majority, no 200 required. Okay?
What's the definition of dilution?
Good question. We're going to discuss that. Says more, first of all, Masnisa, Pliga, are the next mission in the parak. Pliga, remember. What's the next mission say? It says, Tavshul Shabishlo B'Klipe Orlah. If you have a cooked dish which you cook with Orlah shells, you delake. You got to burn the food. So what do we see clearly? You see, Isra Ano is not bottle. Because here talking about Isra Ano, you're not eating the Orlah, not using the Orlah will cook your food. And unless it's not bottle. Why not? Says more there it's different. And our Pata law, he explained that's Kedera B'Kederus. One answer we gave is that that's a pot among pots. Where is Orlah Bata Barav? Where I have the Orlah, the Anoyas Orlah got mixed into something else. But here you have one of the pots, which is in front of you, you don't know which one, was cooked in the Orlah oven. So that whole pot remains osir. And therefore it's not batel. Okay, the pot is like a darva choshev, it's not batel, so even if it gets mixed in, it's not batel. Okay? It's supposed to Hanoyas Orlah, when is that batel when it gets mixed in with the other stuff? Says more, another answer, Rabbi Yasi. Rabbi Yasi said, Mizbah Savarai Babar Memel Shemutar Lasos came B'Tchila. Do you think Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Bar Mel says you're allowed to do l'chatchila, meaning you're allowed to be mevatel the anoyas orlah by adding on a majority against it? Lo, l'shover, he only allows it b'diavad, meaning there, don't eat the pot. That's the chatchila still. It's before the ma'isa. Don't eat it. Here, in our case, it's talking about where it's already painted. So what are you going to do? It's already painted, so it's after the fact. So here we say, if it's already painted, we say it's bottle already. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Says the Gemara.
That's because it's midrabanan.
Yeah, because midrabanan, right. Okay, it says more, Maikadun. How do you cancel Hanos Orlah? How does it work? Tachlis. Imish Bokadei, I'll tell you. If you have in the Orlah, and it's a complicated line a little bit. You open the door again, Dr. Zug, you want to stand? Let's make sure the coffee's on.
What?
Let's make sure you turn on the coffee.
That's coffee?
I don't know if it got turned on. Yes. You want to go turn it on? Maikadun. Do you have the place? Yeah, want to show them the place? There's a little dot. Okay, Maikadun, how does it work? Maikadun, how does it work? This canceling of Orlah. Now, how do you cancel Hanos Orlah? Well, not the Orlah itself, but the benefit from the Orlah. What do we mean by that? Now, let's say you have enough Orlah paint to paint this room. Okay? Let's say this little, whatever, it doesn't matter. To paint this panel here. Okay? If you have enough in the Orlah to color that panel, so no matter how much additional paint you throw into, no matter how much Dutch boy you put on, it doesn't help. The additional paint is as if it's not there. Also, Isser, if that Isser, Shabo, Kidei Lesser, which has enough to Asa, right? Tough. You can't cancel the Orlah, there's Orlah, right? However, where is the Orlah bottle? If there's not enough Orlah paint to color the panel, except if there's Dutch boy added, right? Then at Royes Heter Kamisheno. Since in that case, if you were to look at the permissible stuff as if it wasn't there, also Isser Emo Kadela Asar, that Isser does not have enough to Asar, therefore in that case, the Orlah is bought up a rove. Okay? So where there is enough Orlah to color that panel, how much do I need to cancel the Orlah? If there is enough, how much do I need to cancel it, the paint?
1 to 200.
1 to 200. If there's not enough, how much do I need to cancel it? Only majority. That's right.
So that's like Shabbos?
It's like Shabbos. Very right. That's a good comparison. Very similar. That's right. Okay? Time to learn it over there. That's right. Just wait till we start Yerushalmi Shabbos next week, 2 weeks, right? Time to learn it over there. These are things which come from goyim, which are prohibited, and not to our benefit from them either. Hayayin, wine, v'achomitz and wine, vinegar, shogoyim, shermit closely as long as it started out being wine to begin with. V'cheres hadraini. Now, this is like we have in the Bavli, but nowhere in such details we have in this sugya. Cheres hadraini was Hadrian pottery. The soldiers of Hadrian, they used to travel very far. They used to need to take wine with them. So what they did is they soaked their pottery in wine for weeks, I guess, until it absorbed all the wine. And when they traveled, they would reconstitute the wine by soaking the pottery in water. Freeze-dry wine, right? Okay. So obviously, this is the wine inside the Cheres Hadraini is also banor, right? Because it's Yain Nesach. Yeah, of the Avodah Zarah. The question is, what about the pottery itself? That's what we're going to discuss. Rabbi Yerushalmi said, Rabbi Meir. So here we just said Cheres Hadraini is also banor, right? It sounds like the pottery itself is also banor. So Rabbi Yerushalmi said, Rabbi Meir. It's like Rabbi Meir. The time we learned Cheres Hadraini also the Hadrianic
pottery is also Yisura Yisrano. That's Yisra Yisrano. Now, Manakim, what are we talking about? If you're going to actually cook the, you stick the Hadrianic pottery, the Cheres Hadriani into your cooked dish. Obviously, it's also right because the yain nesel comes out and answers your dish. But what happens if you sell it? Can you sell the pottery? Can you sell the pottery to a goy? Yes, except you can't charge for what? The wine that's in it, right? You can sell for the pot value, you can't sell for the wine value. So obviously, those are obvious. Everybody agree about that. What's the issue? The question is whether you're allowed to put on top of your cooked dish. Now, why is that? You're not putting inside your dish. You're putting on top of your pot to keep your pot closed. The question is, does the scent of the cheres hadriani get mixed in, and therefore it's also, or do I say it doesn't get mixed in, it's mutter? Okay, that's a machlokas, legitimate machlokas. Now let's have another issue. Mali smoke bokari amito. Go and use it to support your bed leg. Use the cheres hadriani to support your bed leg. Rabbi Lezer Amar Aser. Let's say it's Aser. Rabbi Yechanan Amar Mutar. Rabbi Yechanan says it's mutar. What?
Don't you get hanor from the INS?
No, you're not allowed to get hanor from the INS. But here the question is whether you're not getting hanor from the INS anyway. You're getting hanor from the pottery, right? So Rabbi Yechanan Kume Rabbi Zira. Rabbi, you're not asking for Rabbi Zira. I understand. Hain beged it's nina on hacha. Our garment, which we learned about over here, mal lismabos amito, can use it to support your bed. In other words, you have a garment which is colored with orla. Can you use it to support your bed or not? V'ikpad lekivle. So he got upset at the question. Rabbi Zira got upset. Rabbi Yechanan asked the question. Amar lei, so he said, "Afilu madmartama mutter." Even if you hold it's mutter by cheres hadriani, it's certainly also by the shirt. Why? Tamane sunikor, because the cheres hadriani you don't see the wine, so it's no marasayin. So you can use it to support your bed. So therefore, here it's much more public and it's prohibited. I'm Rabbi Chagai. Rabbi Chagai said, "Ilfo." When I came down from the ship. I guess it was at sea. Sham is called Rabbi Yaakov Baracha. He heard the voice of Rabbi Yaakov Baracha. Yosef Masi was sitting and saying, a garment which is colored with orla colors, idolek. You got to burn it. Utzninon, I learned by him a Mishnah was asked him a kasha. Notally, man, it says if you take from an Asherah tree, karkur, a darning needle, something to weave a garment. Also banoya. So whatever garment you darn is also banoya, right? Now to Rabbi Benfred. Oragbosa beged. Oh, I'm sorry. Karkos the needle's also banoya. Oragbosa beged. If you weave a garment with the needle, also banoya. It's also with anoya as well. However, yayin nesel shnafel labor kulo aser. Although Tanakama says yain nesel which fell into a bore, the entire bore is also banoa. We learn concerning this. You can sell the entire well to the goy, with the exception of the value of the yain nesel which fell in. So to here, you got an orla shirt, sold to a goy. Minus what? Minus the value of the blue color or the red color, whatever color it is. But why don't you sell them the shirt itself? What's the difference? It's like there you can sell them the cheres hadriani except for the color, the value of the wine, or the well except for the value of the wine. So to here it's selling the shirt except for the value of the color. Says more very interesting, a very simple answer. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Yaakov, Rabbi Chagai Kashte, or Rabbi Yaakov Bar Yaakov, to whom Rabbi Chagai posed the question, says, Rabbi Chagai, Kasha say, you asked the Kasha, Rabbi Chagai, Kaime. Rabbi Chagai answered. Kaima literally means to state it, but here means answer it. Says the word, Rabbi Chagai answered. My kadun, how do you explain it? You can sell the wine or the cheres hadriani to a goy. Why? Because no Jew is going to buy it back from him. Because every Jew knows not to buy wine from a goy. Right? You have somehow got it.
But you can sell it to a goy. You don't have to be afraid the goy is going to sell it back to a Jew. But by shirts, even you sell it to goy, what might happen someday? Look around and sell it to a Jew, and therefore it's also to sell. Right, we've had this before. They might turn around and sell it to a Jew. By shatnas, we've had it. Okay? Now, close, right. Close. The Gemara never really could explain why Rabbi Eliezer is using the cheres hadroni to support your bed. But he does. I guess it's just because since it's so suffused with wine, he holds it's literally that the pottery becomes ulcer. That's my hunch. Okay, I don't know. The Gemara never explained it exactly. That's what I guess he holds. Rabbi Yochanan holds you can use to support your bed. Bless the one who answers.
Maybe it's for the head of the bed. The fumes of the wine will
That's right, make it drunk. Okay, halacha beis. Hatzovei melo asit. You, in your garment, you colored a sitful. Now, sit, remember, is this the peace sign? You colored a sit with klipe orlah, with the orlah shells, varago beged, and then you idiot, you wove it into your garments, right? You wove it onto your garment. You don't know which thread length in your garment it is. I mean, though, like you got to burn the whole garment. The entire beged must be burned, right? Because he holds the seat is a darva choshev, a significant amount. And significant amounts are not bottle. Midrabanan, albeit, but midrabanan they're not bottle. Right? Whereas Rabbanan argue, Rabbanan say, Yalam Mecham Esayim, as long as the shirt is 200 times the thread, you know what the thread is, so the thread is bottle. Okay? Harek Mula Seat Mitzemra Bechor. What if you took a seat worth of wool from a bechor, a baguette in a garment? You don't like a baguette, you got to burn the garment. There's a bechor is also banoah. Miser nazir. If you take from the hair of a nazir, which is also banoah. Or a petach from a firstborn donkey, which is also banoah. And you put this hair into a sack, which is made sometimes out of hair. You don't like a sack, got to burn the sack. Now here this is only if it's a moli asit, right? If it's a significant amount. But by hektish, if you take any amount of hektish here and put it into your garment, then the whole garment is also. Why is that? So the Gemara is going to explain why. We'll see in a few minutes.
There's no machlokus in the sefer.
No, see, there's no machlokus, but I think the Gemara is going to discuss that. Okay, matan asit. Who's the one who said the shiur is a sit? Rabbi Meir, Beranke Rabbonin, like Rabbonin, who see to pachas misid. There's no distinction whether it's a sit or less than a sit. Meaning that regardless, you need 200 to 1. Okay? Rabbonin, no matter what, they always need 200 because it's not choshev. According to Meir, if it's a sit, then it's never bought up. If it's less than a sit, it's 200, right? But a sit is never bought up, according to Meir. Yes, Rabbi Yochanan. Yes, Rabbi said the same name, Rabbi Yochanan. Oh no, it said the following name, Rabbi Yochanan. And Rabbi Yas also said the same Rabbi Yochanan. Tzemer b'chor shetorfo. Now, the wool of b'chor is more severe than orlah. It's not batel ever. But what if you? That's only if you knitted it into a garment. What if before you made the threads, before you spun the threads? So you put all the wool of bechor in together with regular wool from regular animals. Before you spun the threads. That's torfo, you mix them together. Bata barov. In that case, the bechor hair is not choshev yet. Right? And when it's spun together with the other hair. So it's bata the majority. Okay? Is that clear?
It's the same. It's again minimum amino, so you can't.
Right. Right. Besides Gemara, now here's a couple of typos. I see, this should be, I say, Rabbi Chia Tzipora Komi Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Chia Bar Tzipora brought him for Rabbi Ami, Litra B'Shmona, a 1 measure of Bechor hair, of Bechor wool, which got mixed into 8 measures of Chulin wool. But the wool had not yet been spun, as we said before. V'lo, and it should be V'lo Hore. Rabbi Ami did not paskin that it's mutter. Okay, we skip the next word. Dom Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi said, Rabbi Yossi just said before that it's our Mishnah. Well, what does it mean it's our Mishnah? Meaning that it sounds for our Mishnah that wherever you have bechor hair in anything else, no matter what the size, no matter what the form, it's also regardless. So we learn from our Mishnah that it's also. Ha'oreg malei asit. Then that's the quote from our Mishnah. Actually, I should have read it inside. If you weave a malah seed from the wool of a bechor into a garment, the whole garment must go up in smoke. So here, even though it's before it's spun, it still must go up in smoke. Amar lei, so
why was it a one-to-one ratio?
That's arbitrary. That was the case. It was mamish a case which happened that way. It was a case. So he said, Rabbi Chia said, if I was there, Rabbi Yochanan said this. Ilu itivus tamon, if I was sitting there, is havus yeus. I would have, it would have gone well, literally means. In other words, I would have explained to Rabbi Yochanan that there's a difference between where it's spun and where it's not spun. But you're bringing me a ride from a Mishnah that doesn't draw that distinction, whether it's spun already or it's not spun already, right? If I was there when they were learning over this thing in Rabbi Yochanan's yeshiva, I would have explained to him that there is a difference. But he didn't, and too bad. Tamatzina, we learned over there, new sugya. We learned over there in Masechta Avodah Zarah, I think. Where is this? Tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, sorry. Tamatzina, we learned over there. Some things are burned, and some of them are mentioned in our Mishnah. Some things mentioned in our Mishnah. Nazir hair and firstborn donkeys. They're petarechems. Here we say that they're burnt. Tamonat Srafi means here we learned they're burned. But Tzninon, yet over there, Masech the word says that they're buried. So which is it? Are they? He say they burn, then you say bury. Which one is it? Burning or burying? Which one do you do? Amar Yochanan said it's not a kash, kind of a sack, kind of a shiur. If it's already in a sack, then you burn it. If it's still hair, then you bury it. No, not the other way around. I'll explain why. Rabbi Tzach might say, what's the difference between a sack and say hair? Amar Rabbi Chananya b'reide Rabbi Hillel sack motzu chati dachrod. If you bury a sack, you might dig it up. Because someday you might get the Yitzhar to dig it up and take it out, right? And it doesn't really deteriorate over time. Seir ein motzu chati dachrod. If you bury hair, you're not going to have a taiva Yitzhar to go and get it out of the ground. That's one answer. Depends whether you have the Nazir hair. In the Beis HaMikdash, is a special mitzvah to burn the Nazir hair. There was a special office for that. One of the open air offices in the Ezra's Noshim. And when the outside Beis HaMikdash, there's no mitzvah to burn it, you can bury it. A Nazir Torah has the mitzvah to burn his hair. Nazir Torah does not have the mitzvah to burn his hair. Okay, so that's the difference. You can just bury it. Ask more. That's all good by the hair. But we also see a distinction in machlokes between the two mishnayos about a firstborn donkey. Is there a distinction between Beis HaMikdash and outside Beis HaMikdash? The Petach Hamor is never both the Beis HaMikdash. Can you say the distinction between Kaz and Nazir Torah and Nazir Torah? So like El Kam B'Sak Kam B'Seor. So it must be, since those distinctions don't apply at Petach Hamor, it must be the distinction is between a sack and hair. And since that's the case, we can say also by Petach Hamor, Rabbi Yisrael Rabun, Hein the Temer Yisaref, that which it says Petach Hamor, it's burnt, that's sorrow when it's the hair. Hein the Temer Kaveh, that's what it says it's buried, it's too much tirchum to burn, you bury it when it's his body. Okay, so that's the valid distinction between the expedience in burying versus burning, as opposed to some halachic issue of Beis HaMikdash or Tahor or Tameh, which doesn't apply across the board.
Is that about digging it up sometime in the future?
No, you don't dig up rotting donkeys. Not exactly. Umekdashim, Mekachim Mecholshu. If it's hekdesh, it's mekayish no matter how small the shear.
Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Yochanan said, why is that? Because it's talking about kachim which can be mutter later on. You can redeem them, such as better kabayis, right? So in that case, no matter how small the shear, since it's a davar sheish lo matir, such can be redeemed. Afilu be'elf lo bat, it's not but even 1,000. But kachim b'shem lo matir, but kachim which cannot be redeemed, sheichim seat. Then the only time they're not battles, they have a davar chashuv, which is a seat worth. Hey, so Rabbi Yasi has the kasha for masnisa pliga. Doesn't our Mishnah argue? How's the Mishnah argue? It says, Harik malei seat mitzemer b'chor, but beged. Is something the Mishnah says if you weave a seat worth of the b'chor's wool in a garment, you don't like beged. Then you got to burn the beged. Now, wait a minute. A b'chor, he holds yesh lo matirin. Why is the b'chor yesh lo matirin? Because you bring it to the mizbeach and then you're allowed to eat it, right? And nonetheless, it says that even that only a sit worth becomes aser. Why? It should be a mashu who is aser. It's a davar shel matir, and even a mashu who's not batel, right? Even in 1,000, does b'chor no. B'chor lav kachim sheish lematirinu. B'chor is not like kachim which has matir, and why is that? Because never he comes mutter to a regular guy, or he comes mutter to kohanim. Therefore, it's more. Therefore, the shear is not a mashu like anything else which could be potentially become mutter. The shear is a seat. Isatai lo b'shem meir. Now, what about the Sefer Mishnah? Dr. Spill, you picked up on this one before. The end of our Mishnah. Some people say that's our meir, because the end of the Mishnah says the shear is a sit, right? Like our meir. Isa lo tai lo b'shem meir. Some don't learn it like our meir, but rather even like chachamim, right? And they learn, he brings down here for the Bavli and Tzmura, it says that they learned that this is talking about where you made an extra special davar chashuv. It's not just the sit. You made the isser into a fancy figure. Among other fancy figures, obviously, you don't know which one it is, right? So they made a fancy figure, so then it's not batel even according to Chachamim. Like a special, adornment in your garment, okay? According to Meir, it's good. Because then it comes out, Islay Asor Dvorim Mekachim. We have a brisa which says that traditionally, according to Meir, there are 10 things which are also because of davar chashuv. And then this makes up the count of 10. It's late. Trust me that there are 10 with this one. Madlota have Sher Meir, but he doesn't learn Meir and Meir. Skar Prime, Minon Islay Asor Mekachim. He only has 9. If you leave out Semer Bechor, so you only have 9, you don't have 10, right? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Meir Akiva. Rabbi Meir gets the 10th one from Rabbi Akiva. Elsewhere, the Akiva says another which could be davar chashuv is loaves of bread of a balabas, and that would be the 10th one which we're missing. Okay, again, taking our trust. Says the Mishnah further, Tav shil shabishlo b'klipe orla. You have the dish which you cooked with orla shells exclusively. The only wood in the oven was orla wood. You got to burn the cooked dish. One of this dish gets mixed up with other dishes, you need 1 in 200 in order to cancel it. Similarly, you heated up the oven with orla, and off of a pasta, you bake the bread. You got to burn the bread. If you can't mix in other bread, you go by 1 in 200.
Isn't that duplicating?
Yeah, well, one is bread, one is cooked dish, the same thing. One of the first is even if it's in a pot. Even if it's a pot, it's still awesome. Abba Yirmikaner Bar Yirmiyah, B'Shem Shmuel said, Rabbi Ba and Rabbi Chia B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, it should be Gachale Orla. Orla Kol She'imamu, which already have become gray or white. Harelu Matoris Demutter, because it's already burnt up. It's after the Isser is gone. You're allowed to heat on the heat of the coals. Even though on the coals themselves you wouldn't be allowed to use. Yeah.
Can you use the ashes of the coals?
Yeah. Sure. That's part of that. Would be a derivative of this Gemara. That's right. Okay? La Mastisi, ask Gemara, I know this already. It's a Mishnah which says this. Mishnah says, Im Chodesh Yutatz, if you heated up a new oven with orla wood, with orla husks, so you got to break the oven. Because the first time you heat up a new oven, it forges, right?
Im Yoshin, if it's an older oven, you just have to cool down the oven, because not breaking it in anymore, then you use the next time. And the end of that brisa says that on coals of oil which are already white, you're allowed to cook. So Reit says in the brisa. So what's Rabbi Yochanan being mechadish? Says more one very simple answer. Chanina Amar, lace Kate, take it out of the brisa. It's Rabbi Yochanan's chiddush. It wasn't in the brisa. Okay. Rabbi Yimona Amar Iskain, you can even say it's in the Brisa. The Brisa of Shevi Eitim Lachim, where you didn't actually use the orla husks to cook. You brought moist wood, vinugvo, and you dried them, beklipe orla with orla husks. In that case, the Brisa says, of course, when the wood burns down, you're allowed to use it. Rabbi Yochanan even went a step further. Rabbi Yochanan said that even if you used orla husks themselves as the fuel, once they burn down, you're allowed to cook on them. We'll stop here for this evening.
So if you use the orla husks as a starter for the fuel for the wood, then it'll be okay.
It'll still be okay, right? Obviously, it was a starter, it's okay because it's already burnt later on.